Luis Enrique had a great first season as Barcelona's coach, winning 3 major trophies. But in January 2015, it looked like he might leave because Barcelona was facing a lot of problems. This happens a lot with big teams. When they're so used to winning, any little setback makes people panic. It's hard for them to think long-term and try new tactics. Barcelona had spent a lot of money on Neymar in 2013 and Luis Suarez in 2014. Fans were excited about these signings, but also worried that Barcelona was becoming more focused on buying big-name players, like Real Madrid does, instead of developing talent from within the club. It's tough to say you're more than a club when you're just buying famous players like everyone else. When the season started poorly, fans went from feeling uneasy to being angry. In November 2014, after Barcelona lost at home to Celta Vigo for the first time ever, Luis Enrique said it was hunting season. Then, when they lost 1-0 to Real Sociedad at home after the winter break, people weren't sure if Luis Enrique would keep his job, especially since he had left Messi out of that game. Messi had been left on the bench for his first game back after spending Christmas in Argentina in the past 2 seasons. But this time, people thought it showed there was a problem between him and the coach. Rumors spread about issues between Messi and Luis Enrique, especially when Messi missed a training session, saying he had gastroenteritis. Xavi had mentioned the week before that players sometimes use that excuse when they didn't want to train. Defender Jeremy Mathieu confirmed there had been clashes between Messi and Luis Enrique. Off the field, Barcelona's reputation took a hit because of a transfer ban for signing players under 16 and ongoing questions about Neymar's transfer. The club's director of football, Andoni Zubizarreta, was fired, and his assistant, Carlos Puyol, who used to be the team captain, left soon after. Luis Enrique said his position had been weakened, and a poll showed that 68% of fans wanted him gone. But then Barcelona barely won against Atletico, showing they still had some fight left. Messi returned to his usual position in the middle, playing as a false 9, while Luis Suarez moved to the right. This change made the team play more smoothly, and Barcelona went on to win 31 of their final 35 games of the season, including a 3-1 victory over Juventus in the Champions League final. But was it all because of Luis Enrique? Suarez mentioned that the adjustment that made the front 3 play so well happened almost naturally during a game, with Messi eventually telling him to stay where he was after drifting into the middle. However, to say that Luis Enrique was just a figurehead, someone who knew when to stay quiet and let the players do their thing, although that itself is a skill, would be incorrect. Luis Enrique managed Xavi's decline very well, although Xavi was more cooperative than Luis Enrique had been when Frank Rijkaard phased him out of the team in 2003-04. More importantly, even before revitalizing the Spain national team, he oversaw the shift to a more diverse style of play. This wasn't surprising since he didn't come from Barcelona's traditional background like Guardiola did. He developed his skills not at La Masia but at Sporting Gijón's academy. 6 players from the Barcelona team that played against Juventus in the 2015 final had also played against Manchester United in Rome in 2009. This shows a remarkable level of continuity. Only 4 players from Real Madrid's 1956 European Cup final team also played when they won it for the 5th time in a row in 1960. However, continuity can only take a team so far. After Guardiola left, Barcelona seemed to drift. It's possible they lost their motivation, or maybe Villanova and Martino couldn't inspire them. Under Luis Enrique, they appeared fitter, but there was also a sense that they had become too predictable. Their constant passing and reluctance to take risks made them easy to read at times. A dedicated follower of Johan Cruyff's philosophy might argue that Barcelona had started resembling a Louis van Gaal team too much. Inter Milan and Chelsea may have had some luck in beating Barcelona in the Champions League semi-finals in 2010 and 2012, but they showed the way. After those matches, everyone knew that the best strategy against Barcelona was to sit back, deny them space, and prevent them from playing vertically, forcing them to pass the ball horizontally across the field. While teams would have once been terrified of having only 20% possession in a game, it became accepted as the most effective approach against a team known for its radical possession-based style. That's why the signings of Neymar and Suarez were so crucial. Their individual skills allowed them to disrupt defensive structures by dribbling past opponents, making it much harder for teams to simply defend deep against Barcelona. Messi, of course, had always provided that element of unpredictability, but having 3 players capable of solo brilliance made it even more challenging for opponents. Statistics showed that Barcelona attempted 3 times more dribbles in 2014-15 than they did in 2010-11. Similarly, Rakitic brought a new dimension to midfield, his quicker, riskier, and more direct forward passes aimed to release the front three, rather than merely acting as a sophisticated link in the way Xavi did. Perhaps the Barcelona team of 2015 wasn't as aesthetically pure as the one from 2011. It wasn't a perfect representation of post-Cruyffianism. However, these impurities arguably made it more difficult for opponents to stop. But there was a cost to this evolution. 2 years later, Barcelona, after surviving a dramatic round of 16 tie against PSG in which they lost 4-0 in the first leg, were convincingly defeated by Juventus in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. As they finished second behind Real Madrid in the league, a sense of dissatisfaction pervaded the club. The remnants of Guardiola's legendary team were aging, new signings hadn't lived up to expectations, the production line from La Masia had slowed down, and Neymar, once seen as Messi's heir, departed for PSG. Worse still, the perception of Barcelona as something unique, as the embodiment of a distinctive philosophy, had faded away. They had become just another wealthy club, struggling to navigate the complexities of the transfer market. Their financial resources shielded them from a dramatic downturn, but the uniqueness had vanished. Perhaps this was inevitable. No academy can consistently produce great players on demand, but it didn't make the disappointment any less painful. The departure of Neymar triggered a spree of reckless spending, hastening the decline. Barcelona, with their slow-paced midfield and an attacking line that increasingly operated independently, became susceptible to collapses, against Roma, against Liverpool, and most embarrassingly, in an 8-2 defeat to Bayern in 2020. The disarray in their transfer strategy was evident in the fact that the final 2 goals were scored by Philippe Coutinho, a high-priced signing brought in to replace Neymar but loaned to Bayern after failing to impress at Barcelona. These defeats were a continuation of the decline that began in the 2013 Champions League semi-finals. Despite being buoyed by the financial landscape of modern football, Barcelona, burdened by debt that eventually led to Messi's departure and then the sale of numerous club assets in 2022, managed to stay afloat. They didn't collapse or sink into the kind of decline experienced by Inter after their loss to Celtic in 1967 or Ajax after Cruyff's departure. They remained at the top tier, barely able to contemplate finishing third in La Liga, but certainly not lower. However, their style, whether known as tiki-taka or juego de posición, no longer dominated the scene as it once did.